Hello, can anybody hear me? Hello world. I don't know if I'm live or not. Can anybody hear me? Live or not? Hello? I can hear myself. Can anybody hear me? Oh, hello Nick. Hello Axe Legend. Hello? There seems to be a delay. I can hear myself. Can anybody hear me? Oh. Seems to be an echo. I'm going to turn off my thing. Oh! Okay, good evening everybody. Welcome to another video on Beast Mode Maths. Thank you for joining me, and hopefully you get a lot out of this. So it's nice to see you here. I think I don't know how many people are here. I think there's like 5 people. 5 people, so I'll be here for another 2 hours. If you need some help with your last paper, then I'm here to help you. Okay, so if it's not for you, then just I won't be offended if you just turn off and watch Soccer Aid. Yes, if you've got any questions you'd like to ask me about the third paper, then if you just type the questions into the chat on the right hand side, fire away. So you can either ask questions about the exam structure itself, or if you've got any topics that you'd like me to go through. I do have other videos as well on my channel, so I've got quite a lot of videos that you can have a look at. So hello everybody. Hello Gassy Moo 95. Apologies, this is my first ever live stream, so I apologise in advance if it goes kaplunk. How's everybody getting on with their exam so far? How did the paper 1 and paper 2 go? I think I did get a question actually beforehand. So I've got a question about grade boundaries. A few of you asked me questions about grade, sent me comments about grade boundaries. So the grade boundaries, they're different each year, and the grade boundaries change depending on how everyone in the country does in their exams, basically. So if you have a year where people don't do as well, obviously the questions might be a bit harder, then the grade boundaries will be lower to reflect that. Okay, so you just need to try and concentrate on doing as well as you can. Don't worry about the grade boundaries. Okay, so if you did find it hard, it's likely that most people found it hard, so therefore that doesn't necessarily mean you'll have a lower grade. Okay. Okay, I've just seen a question from Axe Legend. Hello, Axe Legend. Can you give us some examples of high markers and how to solve them, please? Okay, well, high mark questions, are you talking about the foundation paper or the higher paper? Because I think you can see, hopefully everyone can see my screen. What I've done is I've put some, I've got some, what's it called, past papers. So if you let me know kind of whether you're doing foundation or higher, and I could go through some high mark questions with you. Higher, please. Okay, yes. So higher, let's have a look. Higher, let's do set A, paper 3. Okay, let's have a look at some high mark questions. Let's have a look. Got 4 mark questions here. 3 marks. I'm just seeing if there's a 5 mark question. So these are predicted papers. No, there's no 5 mark questions. I'll go through a 4 mark question. Here we go. Here's a 4 mark question. I should be able to write on here. Annotate. How do you annotate? Oh, here we go. Oh, no, that's not it. Oh, here we go. Can I write on here? Right. Oh, hello, Daniel. So just a warning, please try and not put any personal information in the chat. Okay, there's a message that says, welcome to live chat. Remember to guard your privacy and abide by our community guidelines. So please try and not put your names down. It's probably the best thing to do. I'm just seeing if I can annotate using my show toolbar. Can I do this? Oh. Oh, that's changed. Let me... Okay, I think what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to copy the question over to my whiteboard. Okay, so let's just get rid of this. Hello world, that's going right. Okay, I'm going to write down a question. So, showing a circle. Each vertex of the square is on the circumference of the circle. The area of the... Oh no, that's going off the page now. The area of the circle is 81 centimeters squared. Find the area of the shaded... When I get a bit better at this, it'll be a bit easier. So I'm just going to draw the circle in now. Oh, that's not very good attempt. I can do better than that. That's going to have to do. Okay, so I'm just going to go through this question, how I would answer it. It's a 4-mark question. So imagine this is a circle. This is a right angle, and we've got dashes on each of... Oh, we've got dashes on each of these lines here. Okay, let me just go back to the stream. So this question is from the higher paper. So I'll just go through questions people have got in the chat. I'll try and keep up with everybody, but because I know there'll be a mixture of higher and foundation people. Okay. This question I'm going through, it's a 4-mark question. Okay. So it says shown is a square and a circle. Always kind of have a look at the diagram, and you can see that on the diagram these dashes tell us it's a square. These dashes tell us that these 4 side lengths are equal, and we know it's a square because this is a right angle. Each vertex of the square, so we've got 4 vertices on our square, here, here, here and here, are on the circumference of the circle, which we can see. So basically that first line is telling us information we already know from the diagram. So sometimes they will do that. Now we're told that the area of the circle is 81 centimeters squared, and we need to find the area of the shaded region. Oh, I should have shaded in the shaded region. So the shaded region, let's do it in green. So this is the shaded region here. This is the shaded region here. So that's the area that we have to calculate. Okay, so we know the area is 81 centimeters squared. That's the area of the circle, okay, the whole circle. So you need to know the area of a circle. How do we calculate the area of a circle? So if we don't write down the formula, the area of a circle, so area of a circle is pi times our radius squared. So we know that the area of the circle, pi r squared, must be equal to 81. So pi r squared must be equal to 81. So now with this information, we can now go ahead and calculate the radius of our circle, and we'll need the radius to calculate the area of one of our kind of segments here, or all of the segments. So to get r on its own, well, the first thing to do is to get rid of the pi, so we can divide both sides by pi. So we're left with r squared equals 81 over pi. And then to get r on its own, so to work out the radius, well, we've got r squared, so we can square root both sides. So r is going to be the square root of 81 over pi. So that is our radius. Let me just box that, because that's quite an important part. So our radius is this. Now, a lot of people will be tempted to type this into the calculator and write down the numerical value for that. So let me just get the calculator out. So the square root of 81 over pi, and that gives us 5.07770. Now that number just keeps going on forever. Now I would recommend in your exam you don't round your answer just yet. Okay, you leave your answer in this form until you get right to the end of your of the question, and then you can round your answer. So I'm just going to undo that. So this is our radius. So we know the radius. Let's draw in our radius. So the radius, okay, obviously goes from the center of our circle to the circumference, and this is also our radius. So both of these lengths, both of these radii are this value here. Okay, so this is our radius and this is our radius. So because I've drawn a horizontal line and a vertical line, we've constructed another right angle. So hopefully you can see that. This is a right angle. And if we know 2 of the lengths of our right angle triangle, so if we think about how do we calculate this length, well, we can use good old Pythagoras Theorem. So Pythagoras Theorem, to calculate this length, we square both of the shorter sides, add them together and take the square root. So to calculate this length, let's just call this a. So it's going to be a squared is going to be this squared. So the square root of 81 over pi squared plus this squared, well, it's the same thing, exactly the same thing. It's going to be square root of 81 over pi squared. So let's pop that into the calculator. So we've got the square root of 81 over pi. All of that is being squared. And this is really important that you make sure you type it into the calculator correctly. And then plus exactly the same thing. So the square root of 81 over pi. And then squared. Remember, we need to square that. Okay, and that gives me, now I can round. When I type that into my calculator, it gives me the actual decimal. So that is 51.566, and that just keeps going on. So to work out our length, A, well, we can just take the square root of our answer. And in your calculator, there is an answer button, so you can type in square root and then just the answer key on your calculator. That will square root the previous answer, and that gives us a value of 7.18096107, and that is in centimeters. So we've calculated the value of A to be this. Okay, to be this. So to work out the area of the square, because what I'm thinking is to calculate the area of the green section, the green region, where we can take the area of the circle and subtract the area of the square. So to calculate the green section, so green section is going to be the area of the circle, which we know is 81 centimeters squared. So 81 centimeters squared, that is the area of the circle, and we're going to take away the area of the square. Now the area of the square is going to be this length times this length. Well, because it's a square, they're both the same, so it's just A squared. And we already know what A squared is. I didn't even need to calculate the length of A, because we're just calculating the area of the square. So the area of the square is this here, 51.566. 51.566. 81 minus 51.566, and that gives us 29.434, and that is in centimeters squared. So that is the final answer, 29.434 centimeters squared. I'll just quickly go through what you would get the 4 marks for. You would get 1 mark for, well, I don't know for sure, but I would think that you would get 1 mark for this part here. So a lot of the time you get 1 mark just for setting out your first equation. You'd get another mark for working out what the radius is. So once you figured out what the radius is, you probably would get another mark. You would get, or maybe not, this might be 1 mark. I think this actually might just be 1 mark. Okay, you'd get another mark for working out this, working out the area of the square. The area of the square would be another mark. You'd get another mark for working out, so doing the actual calculation of the area of the circle, subtract the area of the square. And then you'd get your final mark if you do get the correct answer. And it doesn't say what to round to, so this would be acceptable. You could even round to 29.4. You should still get the mark. Okay, so that's where your 4 marks come from. Okay, was that helpful, Daniel? That was the question you asked, I think. Axe Legend. No, I do not play Destiny 2. Sorry for that, but no, I don't. Has anybody got any questions about the actual structure of the exam, or anything to do with calculator? Because this is a calculator exam, there are lots of things you can do on the calculator that make it a lot easier for you. I will show you some of these. Actually, let me get a new whiteboard up. Right, let me so actually let me have a look at what's going to be in the paper. So these are the topics 3. So we'll look at the foundation paper. So foundation paper, I'll put this actually in the chat, because I've just put the, I don't know where it comes up, but I've put a link to the advanced information into the chat. And that just tells you all of the topics that will come up in the exam. So paper 3F is paper 3F, and if you scroll down, you also get to paper 3H if you go to the bottom of the page. So depending on whether you're doing foundation or higher, you can have a look at which topics come up in the exam. So if there's anything in there you'd like me to go through, just let me know. See, it's still 0-0 in the soccer aid, not missing much. Ooh. Right, what should we go through? I could just pick a topic. Let's see. I'm trying to get my annotation tool to work. If you just bear with me. Make it a lot easier if I could write on the screen. Oh. Open with annotate. I had that open. Oh, here we go. I think this is going to work now. No, I said no, Axe Legend. No, I do not play Destiny. Right, so this is, let's go on to, this is higher. We can go through the rearranging formula. This is something that is listed as one of the topics, rearranging formula. So if nobody's got any questions, I know there's not many people here, but I think there's about 7 people online at the moment. Oh, there is a question that's come up. Can you do scale drawings? Of course. Let me just see. Scale drawings. Yes, scale drawings is one of the topics. So let me get the... where is it? I'm a bit slow with this. That's higher. Let me get the foundation paper up. So this is... No, this one here was the foundation paper. Let me get the higher paper up. The foundation paper up, sorry. Foundation... Scale, I will go through scale drawings. It's a bit tricky to do on the screen because I don't have the piece of paper, because you'll need that. But I'll give it a go anyway. Okay, for foundation, absolutely. So I've got this question here. This is the foundation paper, and this will be to do with scale drawings. So, is my thing going to work? I'll just find it again. Yes, here we go. I'll just zoom out a bit. Okay, hopefully this works. Let me just check. Yeah, I can write on it, and hopefully you can see that as well. Okay, so the diagram shows a man and his lorry. The man has a height of 2 meters. So you'll always be given kind of, well, there's 4 bits of information you need to know. So whenever you're dealing with scale drawings, think about the real height, or the real length or height, the real height and the scale height. Okay, now there'll be 3 bits of information that you can work out. 1 bit is the bit that's missing. Okay, so the man has a height of 2 meters. Okay, so the man equals 2 meters. So we know in real life the man is 2 meters. Now we need to calculate how big the man is on the scale. Okay, so what you would do is you would get your ruler out and you would measure this distance here. Okay, so this is why you obviously need a ruler. Make sure you do it as accurately as possible. Okay, although there is some margin for error in the mark scheme, try to do it as accurately as possible. Okay, so let's say that this man on the piece of paper, it doesn't look that big. Let's say he was 3 centimeters. Okay, I don't know, I haven't printed this off, but let's say the man on the scale is 3 centimeters. Okay, now we need to work out an estimate for the length of the lorry in meters. So let's write down let's work out what we're measuring. So we need to work out an estimate for the length of the lorry. So this is what we're trying to work out. Okay, this missing measurement here. Okay, now we know the real height of the man and we know the scale height of the man. And we also know the scale length of the lorry because we can measure that as well. So we would measure this length here for the length of the lorry. And again, I don't know what that is, but let's just say that's obviously a lot bigger. Let's say that's 14 centimeters. That's just a random guess. Who knows if that's right or not, but let's say the lorry is 14 centimeters. So notice there's 3 bits of information that you know. Let me just circle them. So there's 3 bits of information you know and 1 bit of information you don't know. But now we can work this out by looking what is the scale factor. So what is the scale factor? And to do that, well, we can just pick 2 of the numbers that relate to each other. So if we look at the man is 2 meters in real life, but on the scale he's 3 centimeters. So we're timesing the number by 1.5. So the scale factor is 1.5. Okay, but obviously we're changing from meters to centimeters. So to work out the real height of the lorry, well, we're just going to divide by 1.5. Because notice, to go from 3 to 2, we are dividing by 1.5. So to go from this 14 to this number here, we're going to do exactly the same. So we're going to divide by 1.5. So let's just do that. So we've got 14 divided by 1.5, and that gives us 9.3 recurring. So not very nice numbers, but 9.3 meters. Let's just put a dot above there, which doesn't seem too unreasonable. I would always, with these sort of questions, always dummy check your answers to make sure it kind of makes a bit of sense. Now we are only dealing with estimates, so you know, if you had everything correct, they would usually give you a boundary of, let's say, between 8 and 10 or 8 and 11 meters. Okay, but as long as you measure correctly and you find the scale factor correctly, you should be fine. So the takeaway from this is that whenever you're dealing with scale drawings, you've always been given 3 bits of information. Okay, so in this case, we could measure the length of the lorry, measure the height of the man, and you'll always be told 1 other piece of information. So you get 2 from the measurements and 1 from the information, and your job is to work out the missing number. So hopefully, I don't know if does that make sense. Unknown. Well, your name is Unknown 12. Does that help with whoever with that, or would you like me to go through something else? What density for foundation? Okay. Right, density for foundation. Let's go through a density question. Let me just see. I think the topics are at the... Oh no. Density. If I can't find one on this paper, I'll just get another one up. Density. No, that's not density. Nth term. What was that, density? Yes, here we go. Here's a question on density. Okay, and this is foundation as well. So this is a foundation question for density. So on the foundation paper, there won't be, the density questions won't be too involved. It will just be about calculating density or using density to calculate the mass or the volume of an object. Okay, so you need to know what the formula is for density. So to work out the density, I always like to do these triangles. Okay, so to work out the density of an object, we take the mass and we divide it by the volume. Okay, I'll just write that down here. So density is mass over volume. Okay, so try and get that memorized. I don't think that is on the given information sheet. There is, so if I just quickly go back to the maths advanced information sheet. Does it? Oh, here we go. Here is the formula sheet. Here's the foundation tier formula sheet, and it's not on there. So you do need to know how to calculate density. All right. So with these sort of questions, you'll always be given 2 bits of information, and you need to calculate the other piece of information. So in this particular one, you're given you're given the side length of a cube. So it's a cube we're dealing with. So let's just do a quick sketch of that. It's not a very good drawing, but you get the idea, hopefully. So we've got a cube. It has a side length of 5 centimeters. So each side is 5 centimeters. And we're also told the mass. So to calculate the density, we do the mass divided by the volume, which we've got here, the mass divided by the volume. We already know what the mass is. So the mass is 306.25 grams. And we're going to divide that by the volume. Be careful, the volume is not 5 centimeters. You need to calculate the volume. So to calculate the volume, well, it's going to be 5 centimeters times 5 centimeters times 5 centimeters, which gives us 125 centimeters cubed. Okay, I didn't need a calculator, but you can always use a calculator. There's no harm in using a calculator for this. Okay, so we know the volume. The volume is 125 centimeters cubed. So we just need to type this into the calculator, and that should give us our density. So 306.25 divided by 125, and that gives us, it's quite a nice number. It's just 2.45, and if we think about our units, it's grams per centimeter cubed. Grams per centimeter cubed, and actually we don't need to write our units in because they are already given to us in our answer. So our answer is just 2.45. Okay, so these formulae, okay, you should have these memorized. You should know these off by heart. It's a bit like speed, distance, and time. If we were to look at the relationship between speed, distance, and time quickly. So speed is distance divided by time. There's a few others as well. It's not there in. Okay, can you please go through bearings? Yes, I will go through bearings. Hello, Axe Legend. Another one, 3547. Right, so bearings. Let's have a look. I think there was a question on bearings. Is this found? I'll go through bearings first, and then I'll go through some trigonometry. And make sure, if I could just ask for, when you're typing a question into the chat, if you could be as specific as possible. So say which tier, so either foundation or higher, and instead of just saying something like algebra, or trigonometry, if it would just be helpful if you could say be a bit more specific as to what kind of topic within within that you want some help with. So let's just go through some stuff on bearings. Let's have a look. Bearings, is there any bearings in here? Bearings, can't see anything on bearings on there. Let me just check that that is in there. So that's higher tier. Foundation tier. Uh, 2F, 3F. Oh yeah, bearings is that. Okay, I'll go with some bearings. Let me find another. Okay, just bear with me guys while I find some questions on bearings. Okay, I'll just... Right, okay. Okay, is there any part of the bearings that you want me to go through? Who was it that asked about bearings? Unknown 12. What specifically about bearings did you want me to go through? Oh. If you just have a think about that, I'll have a look at some foundation trigonometry as well. Imperial power says foundation trigonometry. Let's have a look. Okay, so with bearings, I'll just do some work on the whiteboard for this. So with bearings, let's say this point was point A and this point was point B. Okay, we don't want to sign up to anything. Right, and we want to calculate the bearing. So let's say bearing from A to B. So if we're asked to calculate the bearing from A to B, the first thing to do is to always start from north. Okay, so if it hasn't already done it on the paper, if it's not already shown on the paper, sometimes it is, I would draw a north line in like that. So draw a north line in on your paper, and you're starting from A, so you're starting from north and you're going clockwise until you get to this line that is the path from A to B. So you're going to measure this angle here. Okay, so let's just say we've measured that already, and that is 110 degrees. That would be the bearing. The bearing from A to B would be 110 degrees. Okay, if it, on the other hand, asks you the bearing from, let's say it said from B to A, this is where a lot of people get confused a bit. So the bearing of B to A, we're starting at B and we're going to A. So again, you have to draw in your north line first. So we're starting with B. So we draw our north line in. But this time, we're not measuring this angle. Okay, this, I'm just going to put a big fat X there. That is not correct. You should not be measuring that angle here because you always go clockwise. You always go clockwise. I underline that 3 times. So the angle you're measuring, let's do this in a different color. You are measuring, so you're starting from B, you're going clockwise until you get to this line here. Okay, so you're going to work out this line. So, well, we can just use a bit of geometry from this. To work out B to A, all you do is you can just add 180 degrees onto 110. So this is going to be 290 degrees. Okay, 290 degrees. One other way you could think about it is if you did calculate this angle, okay, if this is 110 degrees, well, this one's going to be 70 degrees because they are co-interior angles. Co-interior angles add up to 180 degrees. So then once we know that's 70, then we can take 70 away from 360 and that will give us 290. Okay, so with bearings, always go clockwise. That's kind of number 1. That's the most important thing to remember. Number 2 is we always start from north. Always start from north. And number 3, which hasn't really, we didn't need it on this, but they should always have 3 digits. They should always have 3 digits. So if this angle, if we were, I know this is not, let's say that this angle is 70 degrees. I know it's not 70, but let's say it is. Then the bearing would be 070 degrees. Okay, so it always has to have 3 digits. Just get rid of that. Okay, let's go do a bit of trigonometry, I think. Let me get up so basic trigonometry. Let's add a new board. Again, with foundation, let's say we've got a triangle here. It's not a very good triangle. So let's say we were let's say this angle was 30 degrees. Let's say this angle was this length was 5 centimeters and this was X. Okay. So whenever you get a question that involves this has to be a right angle triangle. Whenever you get a question that involves right angle triangles and an angle and side lengths and things like that, I always write down on my page SOHCAHTOA, which is the acronym to help me remember which trigonometric function to use. So let's have a look at what information we've got. Well, we've got, so from the point of view of our angle, this is the opposite side length. This is the hypotenuse because it's opposite the right angle. It's the longest side length. And this side length is the adjacent. So we need to look at which information we've got and which information we're trying to find out. So we've got the adjacent. That's already given to us. That's 5 centimeters. And the one we're trying to work out is the hypotenuse. So we look at our SOHCAHTOA acronym. Which of these kind of letters of 3 involve the hypotenuse and the adjacent? Well, we've got the hypotenuse and the adjacent here, so we're going to use this function here, and this is our cosine function. So if we write down what the cosine function is, so the cos of an angle, so the cos of our angle, in this case 30 degrees, is equal to the adjacent divided by the hypotenuse. So the adjacent is 5, and the hypotenuse, that's what we're trying to work out, that is X. Okay, so this is kind of our first line of working. So now you need to rearrange the equation to make X the subject. Okay, so, or another way to think about it actually is, we're trying to find the hypotenuse. So we're trying to find, let's just highlight that in a kind of a violet colour. So we're trying to work out the hypotenuse, so we do the adjacent divided by cos. So let's write this down. So we do the hypotenuse, which is X, is equal to the adjacent, which is 5, divided by cos of our angle, cos of 30 degrees. Okay, and then we would just type that into the calculator. 5 divided by cos of 30, and we get 5.77. 5.77 centimeters. Always dummy check your answer. Okay, if this length is 5, this length, the hypotenuse, has to be greater than the adjacent because it's the longest side. So I'm pretty happy that that's the correct answer. Okay. Hello, Iris. Can you go over crossover for foundation to higher? I can have a look at some. So this is the foundation kind of paper, one of the foundation papers that I've got. So if I go to the end, let's have a look at some of these sort of questions. So I think simultaneous equations would be a crossover topic. That's sort of a grade 5, I think, grade 4 or 5. I think it's probably a 5. So let's just go over some simultaneous equations. And then after that, I will go over speed, distance, and time for moon. And then I'll go over some comparisons of distributions. Okay, so let's go over this first of all. Actually, so before I go through that moon, actually, can you? No, not moon. Whoever it, who was it? So Iris, could you just go over like a specific topic? I think it's easier if you tell me a topic that you'd like to go over, because the crossover, that can be a whole range of different topics. So if you just tell me exactly which topic, it just makes it a bit easier. Distance, speed, and time. I always get different distance than the mark scheme, but I don't know why for measuring the distance between the 2 points. I always get different distance for the mark scheme, but I don't know for measuring the distance between 2 points. So if you're getting the different, you do need to be as accurate as you can. Try and, when you're measuring distances, do it to the nearest millimetre instead of rounding to the nearest maybe centimetre. And always, one really important thing with distance, speed and time is your units. Okay, if you're, let's say, let me get the whiteboard up again. Let me get a new board up. Oh. Okay, so with distance, speed and time, your units have to be consistent. So let's say the speed was 10 meters per second. Okay, but let's say the distance was 4 kilometers. Okay, to work out the time, so let's say we're traveling at 10 meters per second, and let's say the distance between the 2 points is 4 kilometers, and we wanted to calculate the time, how long it took to travel from those 2 points. The first thing you need to make sure you do is change the units so we've got consistent units. Okay, so you can either change the kilometers into meters, or you can change the meters per second into kilometers per second. So what I would probably do is change this into meters. So 4 kilometers is the same as 4,000 meters. And then I would be able to work out my time. So if we think about our formula, so speed equals distance over time. So to work out the time, it's the distance divided by the speed. So distance divided by speed. So it's going to be 4,000 meters divided by 10 meters per second. And 4,000 divided by 10 is 400. So our answer would be 400 seconds. And then you could then change that. If you wanted to convert that into minutes, you can do. I don't know if I've answered your question, Iris. Not no. Who was that? Can't remember who that was now. Moon. Can't remember. If I don't know if I've answered your question, but hopefully that helps. Comparison of so imperial. I think for this next one, I'll go over imperial power. Go over a question by imperial power. Can you go over comparisons of distributions? Yes, I will go. So let me. I don't know if there's any questions. So that would be to do with. So I think you're talking about comparing averages and the spread of data between different things. So I'll do this. I'll do it on the same one in a different color. Okay. So if you, let's say the question was compare the distributions in exam scores. Compare the distribution in exam scores for the boys and girls. Okay, let's say this was the question. Compare the distribution in exam scores for the boys and girls. A lot of the time, well, these are worth sort of 2 or 3 marks. You get 1 mark for comparing the averages. You get 1 mark for comparing the averages, and by average, it depends on what information you've got. So that would either be the mean or the median, usually. The mean or the median. And then you'd get another mark by comparing the ranges. So comparing the range or the interquartile range. Okay. But in these type of questions, you have to relate them back to the question. So you can't just say the boys mean score or the boys had a higher mean than the girls. You have to say what it relates back to. So you would have to say that the boys' mean exam score was higher than the girls' mean exam score. And then also to do with the range, you would have to then say the range in exam scores was maybe greater for the girls compared to the boys. You cannot just say the range was bigger. You have to relate it back to the question. If you're told both the mean and the median, do explain both in the answer. No, you would only need to explain one of them. You'd only need to talk about one of them. Usually they would only give you one of them. Okay, so a lot of these questions you're given, where you're asked to compare the distributions, are questions where you're given information about it's usually to do with the median. So you're given the minimum, the maximum, the lower quartile, the upper quartile, and the median. So it's mainly to do with the median. Okay, so you'd compare the median between both sets of data, and then you'd explain what that means. So the median was higher for the boys. What does that mean? It means they got a higher exam result. Then you'd compare the range. So you would then go on to say that the range is greater for the girls, but then you'd have to say what that means. Well, that means that the spread of the data is greater, or the spread of exam scores is greater in the girls, or the girls' exam scores vary more than the boys. So always relate it back to the question. Okay, but yeah, you only need to give the one. So yeah, don't do the mean and median and think that will give you 2 marks. One of them has to be an average, so either the mean or the median, and one of them has to be the spread, so either the range or the interquartile range. Direct proportion for the foundation. Yes, let's have a look at direct proportion. what have we got? Is there a question on direct proportion on here? Well, actually, I think it's probably better just to go, instead of going through specific exam questions, I'll just go kind of what the main things to remember about direct proportion. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Hopefully that was helpful. That's good to know. Okay, so direct proportion. Let's just write it down. Direct proportion. So let's just say if things are directly proportional, that means that as one thing increases, the other thing increases by the same amount. Okay, so we could say, let's say A equals, I don't know, 2. And B equals 6. Okay, so we're told that A equals 2 and B equals 6. And we're also told that these are directly proportional. So we're also told that A is directly proportional to B. So what this means, when it says something's directly proportional, that means if A increases by some amount, B increases by the same kind of multiple. So let's say A equals 4. Well, what would B equal? Well, we can see that A is doubling, so we're going from 2 to 4. So because they're directly proportional, B will also have to double. So B would be 12. 6 times 2. Let's say A was, I don't know, 50. Then what would B equal? Well, have a look. We're going from 2 to 50. So we're getting 25 times bigger. So we do 6 times 25. What's 25 times 6? Well, I think that's 150. I think, yeah, 150. Okay, so the word directly proportional just means as one thing increases, the other thing increases by the same proportion. Okay, so it's just like thinking about it's being scaled up. It's a bit like a scale drawing. It's everything's being scaled up by the same amount. So whatever you increase the width by, the length gets increased by the same amount. So for direct proportion, especially for the foundation tier, I don't think it will go any kind of. It's not as. It doesn't get any more involved than that. For the higher tier, it is a lot more tricky, direct proportion. But for the foundation tier, that's kind of what you need to know. The most important shapes. Well, so if you're talking about 2D shapes, moon, yes, you do need to know how to calculate the area and kind of well, all of the shapes really. So circle, parallelogram, obviously rectangle, square, triangle, rhombus. It would, well, I'll put rhombus in there as well, but so these three, these three here, to calculate the area, it's just exactly the same for all of them. Okay, it's just base times vertical height. Actually, for this one as well, actually, all four of these, the area is exactly the same. It's just the base times the vertical height. But I wouldn't. There aren't any more shapes that are more important than others. You know, the exam board don't have a preference for the shape, so just all of the shapes. You know, and then if you get a question about a semicircle, then just think about, well, how do you calculate the area of a circle, and then you can just half it. Even a quarter circle, if you're given a quarter circle, how do you calculate the area of a circle and then divide it by 4? So that's the way I would approach those sort of questions. Finding the trapezium. Yes, I will go over that actually. Okay, so if you want a complex area, that involves finding. There was a question that I went through in one of the walkthroughs about that. I think I might have it. Actually, Moon, instead of going through it, I'd probably recommend on my channel there's a the walkthrough. Actually, no, I will go through it. Yeah, I think probably because then you can ask me questions about it anyway. So I don't want to just palm you off onto one of my other videos. Let me try and find it first of all. What's that? Okay, and okay, I found that question, so I'll go through that question with you. I realise I have a lot of tabs open, and let's get rid of that one. Right. Oh. So this question here is, I think, the sort of question you're talking about. So it says ABC is a trapezium, which we can see here. And we need to calculate the area of this trapezium. So there's always, whenever you're calculating the area of a trapezium, there's two ways you can do it. You can either calculate the area of the trapezium outright. So trapezium, we would do half A plus B, and by A plus B, the A plus B are the parallel sides. So it would be this side and this side. Those are A and B. Can I undo that? Let me get my... Yeah, so those are A and B. And then you multiply that by the height. And in this case, the height is 15. So that's one way you could think about it doing it. The other way is to break it up into a rectangle. So break it up into a rectangle and a triangle. And I think this is probably the easier way to do it. So then you can calculate the area of the rectangle, calculate the area of the triangle, and then add the two together. So this sort of question here, well, first of all, think about the area of the rectangle. You know what the width is. The width is 15, but you're not told anything about the height. So we need to think about how are we going to calculate this height. Well, we know this height here. We know this height is 12 centimeters. If we can calculate this height here, so from this point to hit this point, then we can take it away from our total of 12 to work out here. Okay, and then and to do that, we would use Pythagoras. This is 15 centimeters. Okay, this is a rectangle, so this is 15. So we can use Pythagoras to calculate this length. So if I just put Pythagoras' theorem down, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So 15 squared is 225. 17 squared is 289. So to calculate the shorter length, so we've got a squared plus 225 equals 289. Okay, because remember, this is the longest side length, so this is C. This is C. So then we could take away 225 from both sides, so we get 64. and then A would be 8. So this would end up being 8 centimetres. And now we can work out what this is. 12 minus 8 is 4. And then we can calculate the areas. 15 times 4 is 60. And then this here, this is where a lot of people slip up on. The area of a triangle, most people, well not most people, but a large majority of people always forget to half the area. So they'll do 15 times 8, which is 120. So they'll write down 120, but then it's not 120. It is half of that. So it's base times height divided by 2. So that would also be 60. So you've got 60 plus 60, which is 120 centimetres squared. Okay, and that question is worth 4 marks. So again, you get a lot of marks. Let me just scroll down again. You get a lot of marks for that. Hopefully did that help, Moon? I will do reciprocals of a decimal, like 0.3, and for that I can just write on a whiteboard, I think. Let me get up another whiteboard. Actually, can I get rid of this one? Oh, I'll just do a new one. Okay, the reciprocal. So if it says calculate the reciprocal of 0.43, that is, with a calculator, that's very easy to do. So let's write this down. Reciprocal of 0.43. So whenever you are asked to find the reciprocal of a number, the word reciprocal always means 1 over that number. Okay, so with a calculator, the reciprocal of 0.13 will be 1 over 0.43, and all you have to do is type that into a calculator. So 1 divided by, this is the same as 1 divided by 0.43. So type that into a calculator, and that gives you 2.33. That I've rounded that to 2 decimal places. So whenever you see the word reciprocal, always think 1 divided by that number. Okay. So did that help, Lash Hubby 6? Okay, without a calculator, obviously doing this is a bit trickier, but because you've got a calculator, the last exam is calculator, you just need to type this in. That's kind of as simple as it gets, really. So if it asks you, let's say it said, what is the reciprocal? Let's do one more. Reciprocal of 2/5. Well, the reciprocal means 1 divided by 2/5. So in your calculator, you can just do 1 divided by 2/5. And if you do that, you get an answer of 5 over 2. Okay, so it's always 1 divided by that number. Rhombus. So to calculate the area of a rhombus, so this is for imperial power, if you're listening. Let's just do this in a different colour. So remember, a rhombus, all the side lengths are the same. All the side lengths are the same. So all the side lengths are the same. So to calculate the area is base times height. So the height is this height. Be really careful. It's not the diagonal height. That is the height. And this is the base. Okay, so it's just, if you think about a rhombus as just a slanted square, to calculate the area of a square, it's base times height. To calculate the area of a rhombus, it's also base times height. But remember, it's not the slanted height, it's the vertical height. Okay, so I'll just write there rhombus. I will do, if it's already a fraction, then it's exactly the same. So the reciprocal, I'll just do this here. So the reciprocal of 1/9. Well, again, it's always the same. It's 1 divided by 1/9. Okay, 1 divided by 1/9, which gives you 9. Okay, which gives you 9. So hopefully that helps. It doesn't matter what number you're given. Always do 1 divided by that number, and you'll get the reciprocal. Okay, can you do forming an equation? Yes, forming an equation. Let's see if that would actually be helpful if I did have a question on forming an equation. Let's have a look. No. Oh yes, actually no, I do have a question on forming an equation. Let's bring that over. So there was one in this paper. Let's have a look. I did see it a minute ago. Here we go. Again, I don't know what level you're at, but we'll look at this question here. So Robert is X years old. Hannah is 7 years younger than Robert. The sum of their ages is 61. Form an equation in terms of X. So we're told that Robert is X and Hannah is 7 years younger than Robert. So Robert is X. If Hannah is 7 years younger than Robert, well, Hannah is going to be X minus 7. Okay, so Robert, let's write this down. Robert, I'll just put Rob for short. Robert is X. Hannah is X minus 7. Okay, that would get you 1 mark, I think. Actually, I'm not sure if that would give you 1 mark, but I'm just looking. This is only worth 2 marks. If this is worth 3 marks, it would give you 1 mark. So Rob is X, Hannah is X minus 7 because she's 7 years younger than Robert. And it says the sum of their ages. Let's just box that word. Sum. So sum means the result when you add the two together. So when you add Robert and Hannah's ages together, you get 61. So let's add these two together. Let's add these two together. So we've got X plus X minus 7. And we know that when we add them together, we get 61. Okay? And then we can just simplify that. X plus X is 2X. So it's 2X minus 7 equals 61. And that would be our final answer. Okay, did that help? Or did you want something a bit like, is that the sort of level you're looking at? So I kind of went through each step one at a time. Okay, so try and go through each line one at a time instead of trying to do it all at once. That might help. There was another question. I'll go through the other question. There was another question on forming an expression. Let's have a look at that one. Okay, I'll go through this one as well. So an airplane has economy and first class seating. There are S seats in each row in economy, and there are T seats in each row in first class. There are 9 rows in first class and 24 rows in economy. Write down an expression in terms of S and T for the number of seats on the aeroplane. So the total number of seats on the aeroplane. Okay, so if we think about the rows, let's think about first class first. So first class. So first class, there are T seats in each row in first class. So let's say each row, so this is the row. Okay, so we're not told how many there are, but there are T seats. There could be 6, there could be 7, there could be 8. Doesn't tell us, but there are T. There are T seats in each row in economy, and there are 24 rows. So, we'd have all of this, and we'd do this 24 times. We'd do this 24 times. Okay, because there's T seats and T seats in each row, and there are 24 rows. So the total number of seats for first class. So how many seats are there in total? Well, there's going to be 24 times however many seats there are in each row. There's 24 rows, so it'll be 24 times T. So it'll be 24T. That would be the total number of seats in first class. And now if we think about economy, well, there are E seats in economy. So let's change this. Instead of T, now there are E. And how many rows are there? There are now 9 rows. So how many seats are there in total in economy? Well, there's 9 times E, which is 9E. So the total, it says write down an expression in terms of S and T for the number of seats on the whole airplane. Well, it's going to be the number of seats in first class, which is 24T, plus the number of seats in second class, which is 9E. Okay, that's probably going to be a crossover question, I would say. That would probably be a grade 4 question. So there's 2 questions there. Hopefully that was helpful. Whoever asked that, I can't remember now. It's such a long time ago. Oh, Imperial Power, that was you. Oh, it does say S. Yes, sorry, GTV. And these are the sort of things where I make lots of mistakes. Yeah, so whenever I set exams, I generally don't get 100% because I always make stupid mistakes like this. Well spotted, it is 9S. I thought it was, I just saw economy and put E, but I should make sure I read the question carefully. Thank you for that. Yeah, and sorry, GTV, there was a problem when I did the first stream. It didn't work, so I did it again. You're welcome, Paula. Hello, Luke. Wow, I've got 22 viewers. That's quite cool. Is there any other questions? Maybe they don't need to be about about topics. If you want a question about using the calculator, if you're a bit unsure about how to use a particular button on the calculator, then I can go through that, because there are some quite cool tricks you can do on the calculator. So instead of doing these really long calculations, using the calculator, a lot of what they're testing you on in the calculator paper is your ability to use the calculator, which is why they are tailored to using the calculator. I know I've said calculator a lot in that sentence, but hopefully that made sense. Oh yes, I think, apologies both of you guys. I did go through this question quite quickly, and I'll just clarify something. So there are S seats in each row in economy. So economy is 9. So that should be 24S. Sorry, 24S. So there's 24 rows and S seats in economy. So that is economy, and then first class. First class, there are 9 rows in first class, and there are T seats, so it should be 9T. So it should be 9, I'm just going to scrub all of that off. 9T plus 24S. Okay, so I'll go through a few things with the calculator. I will go through the substitution as well, GTV. So substitution, let's see if I'm just going to see if there's any questions I can find. I think what I'll do is I'll get up a new page. So let's say we've got the formula. Let's write this down. So S equals U. Ooh, go away. S equals UT. Oh, go away. Plus a half AT squared. So let's say we've got this formula, and we are told that U equals 4, T equals, 7, A equals 2, and we have to calculate the value of S. Okay, so with your calculator, what I usually do is I always put my numbers in brackets. So I can't put the calculator on the screen here, but let's imagine I'm typing this into a calculator. So what I'm going to type into a calculator is U, which is 4. I'm going to put that in brackets, multiplied by T, which is 7. And then we're going to add on a half. So type in the fraction button on your calculator. And then put A in. Well, A is 2. And then put in T squared. So T is 7. So times 7 squared. So everything I'm substituting, I always put it in brackets. But you don't have to. But this is kind of what I would type into the calculator. And then that should give you your answer. So 49 plus 20, that's 49 plus 28. You should get 77 if you do that. Okay. You could also do 4 times 7 plus a half times 2 times 7 squared. That would also give you 77. So you're just substituting these values into your expression. And whenever you get something like this, ut, that means multiply. So it's u times t plus a half times a times t squared. So all of those are being multiplied together. Okay. Yeah, I will go through one thing on the calculator actually, which is quite useful, especially when you have to calculate things like factors and multiples. So if you've got your calculator with you right now, I'd encourage you to do this along with me, because if you don't know about this, it's quite cool. So let's say there was a question that said write 100 as the product of its prime factors. I'm sure you've all seen this question before. It comes up quite a lot, writing numbers as the products of their prime factors. And it's useful as well when you're calculating highest common factor, lowest common multiple, things like that. Okay, so on your calculator, if you type in 100, so type in 100, and then press the equals button. So press 100, then press the equals button, and then after you've got that, it should come up as 100 on the screen. If you press the shift button, so press shift, and then press. I'll show you what. I'll draw it in actually. There's a circle with a little kind of comma and then some speech marks, kind of this button here. Okay, then it should come up on your screen as the answer. It should come up saying 2 squared times 5 squared. Okay, this button here, it is the one, it's got fact above it. It says fact above it. Okay. So, you can write any number as the products of their prime factors just by doing this. So for example, if you wanted to calculate 284 as the products of their prime factors, follow all of this. So press equals, press shift, and then the fact button. 284, shift, factor, that means kind of finding the prime factors, and it comes up straight away as 2 squared times 71. Okay, and then if it said find, let's say it said find the lowest common multiple of 100 and 284, because again you can use this. Well, our lowest common multiple, it's going to be, what have they, to get 284, you need a 2 squared times a 71. And to get 100, you need a 2 squared times a 5 squared. Well, we've already got the 2 squared, so we need to multiply on the 5 squared. So that would be our answer for the lowest common multiple. So it would be 4 times 71 times 25. which gives us 7,100. So you can actually calculate lowest common multiples quite quickly if you know how to do this trick. Okay, so writing numbers as their products of their primes factors, you can use that to calculate the lowest common multiple. And then let's just say we wanted to calculate the highest common factor. So the highest common factor of 100 and 284. Well, what do they both have in common? Well, the only thing they've got in common is 2 squared. So it would just be 2 squared, which is 4. So we can calculate the lowest common multiple and the highest common factor using that. Let's go on to the question from Leiba Kawa. I apologise if I've butchered that. Can you just make that a bit more specific? That would be quite helpful. So what type of percentages? Percentage increases, decreases, percentages of amounts, compound interest, that sort of thing. That would just be helpful. Making something the subject. Sorry, Moon, I've just seen your question from earlier. I do apologise, I've just seen it just now. Yes, I'll go through making something the subject. So I'll do it on the same page just in case people are still reading kind of what's on the screen there. Best of luck everyone as well. Sorry, I should have said that. So let's say we've got the question. So make A the subject of W equals 8A minus 3. Okay, so if we're asked to make something the subject, the answer always has to be A equals. Okay, if we're asked to make A the subject, the answer has to be A equals. Okay, so we want to get A on its own. So we're doing everything in reverse. So at the moment we've got this minus 3. We want to get rid of this minus 3 because we just want A on its own. So to get rid of minus 3, well, we do the opposite. We add 3. So if we add 3, we obviously have to add 3 to both sides. Remember, whatever we do to one side of an equation, we have to do the same to the other side. So on the left-hand side, that would give us W plus 3. And on the right-hand side, we're just left with 8A because these 3's cancel out. And now finally, we want to get A on its own. At the moment, we're multiplying by 8. So we do the opposite. So we divide by 8. So we need to divide both sides by 8. We need to divide both sides by 8. So on the left-hand side, we get W plus 3 over 8. And on the right-hand side, well, 8A divided by 8 is just A. Okay, that's the whole reason we divided by 8 is to get A on its own. So this is our answer. The order doesn't matter. I've put A on the right, but I could quite easily put A on the left. So it'd be W plus 3 over 8. So you're just sort of reversing everything. So hopefully that helped. And again, sorry it was a bit late. Let's have a look. Apologies if I miss any questions. I'm trying to go through all of them. Percentage increases. I'll go through percentage increases. Let me get a new board up. So let's say, if we were to increase, I don't know, £75 by 13%. Okay, there's two ways you could do this. You could calculate 13% of £75. So you could do £75 times 13%, or as a decimal, 0.13. So it would be 75 times 0.13, which gives us 9.75. So £9.75. So that's 13% of 75, but we're increasing it by 13%. So we're going to add that on. So it's going to be £75 plus £9.75. Okay, and I think I can do that in my head, but let's pop it into the calculator anyway, just to save a bit of time. £84 and 75 pence. £84 and 75 pence. That would be our final answer. And obviously, if it said decrease by 13%, we would just take this away from £75. Okay, there's two. I think because there's two of you asking for simultaneous equations in the higher section, I will go over that. I will come back to, let me know if you want me to go over. Actually, before I do that, I will go through calculating percentage increases. So if a question says a game went from, let me just kind of put a line here. A game went from £20 to £28. What was the percentage increase? Okay, a lot of people do struggle with these sort of questions. And there is a formula to calculate a percentage increase. So we do the difference between the prices. So we do the difference between the old price and the new price, and we divide that by the old price. Okay, so it's just the difference between the prices divided by the old price. That will tell us kind of the increase as a fraction, and then to convert that into a percentage, we would times by 100. Okay, so this formula, if you just remember this formula, the difference between the prices divided by the old price, it's always the old price, the starting value, and then times by 100. So here, for this question, it would be 8. That's the difference. We're going 20 to 28, so that's a difference of £8. The original price was £20, and then we times that by 100. And I can do that in my head. That is 40%. Oh, I'm getting to the bottom here. So all of this would be 40%. Okay. So now I'll go through simultaneous equations. Let me see if you're after, so from a higher paper, you're looking at the ones where one of them is a quadratic and one of them is a linear equation, probably. So let me find, actually, oh. Okay, right, let me get one on the board. So this is for, if you're doing higher, this would be sort of a grade, probably a grade, I don't know, well, 7, 8 or 9, I think. So, let's say we've got the equation x squared plus y squared equals 45. And we've got the equation 5x minus 3y equals 21. Okay, these are quite tricky, these sort of questions. So yeah, this would probably be a grade 8 or 9 question. Now, whenever you're asked to solve simultaneous equations where one of them is a quadratic and one of them is a linear equation, you always have to substitute. Let me type this out actually because my handwriting's not very good. So substitute the linear equation into the quadratic. Okay. So the first thing to do is rearrange this equation to make one of them the subject. Okay. So I'm going to make x the subject. So the first thing to do is make x the subject. Okay, so this equation here, let's just write it down over here. So 5x minus 3y equals 21. So to make x the subject, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this minus 3y. So if I add 3y to both sides, what am I left with? I'm left with 5x equals 3y plus 21. Okay, and now if I divide both sides by 5, so to get x on its own, I need to divide both sides by 5. So if I divide by 5, divide by 5, oh, and what am I left with? I'm left with x equals 3 over 5y plus 21 over 5. Okay, and not very nice numbers, but unfortunately that's just the question we're dealt with. So now we've got what x is, we have to substitute this into our quadratic equation. So wherever we see an x, instead of writing x squared, we're going to write all of this squared. So let's do that. So instead of x, we've got 3 over 5y plus 21 over 5 squared. So hopefully you can see what I've done there. We know what x is. X is all of this business. So I'm just substituting this where x is. And then plus y squared equals 45. So that's kind of our second step. So we need to, first of all, expand this out. So I always like to write out the double brackets. So 3 over 5y plus 21 over 5. And then do that again. 3 over 5y plus 21 over 5. Plus y squared equals 45. So if we FOIL this out, so let's do the first two terms. 3 over 5y times 3 over 5y. That will give us 9 over 25 y squared. Now if we do the outside terms, so 3 over 5y times 21 over 5, that would give us 63 over over 25y. Now let's do the middle terms. Well, that they will be the same. That would also be 63 over 25y. And now if we do our final terms, 21 over 5 times 21 over 5. Well, that's going to be quite big actually. Let's 21 times 21. That's going to be 441 over 25. And then plus y squared. So now I'm just doing this part here. So plus y squared equals 45. Right, okay, now we need to simplify this a bit. This would probably be a grade 9 question actually, because it is quite tricky to do. So if we multiply everything by 25 to get rid of all of these 25s on the bottom, so if we multiply this by 25, we've got 9y squared. If we multiply this by 25, that gives us plus 63y. This would be plus 63y. This would be plus 441. This would be 25y squared. And then this would be 45 times 25 is 1125. And I'm running out of space. I'm going to have to rub out. I'll do it up here actually. We can simplify 25y squared plus 9y squared. That gives us 34y squared. 63y plus 63y. That gives us 126y plus 126y. And then we've got plus 441. And that equals 1125. And now if we take away 441 from both sides, we're left with 34y squared plus 126y equals... I'll do this first actually. 1125 minus 441. 684. And remember, whenever we're solving a quadratic, we need to get this to be equal to 0. So if we take away 684 from both sides, we get 34y squared plus 126y minus 684 equals 0. Can we simplify that? I'm not sure if we can simplify that, but we don't need to. Once we've got this formula, sorry, I shouldn't say formula. Once we've got this equation, we can use the formula, we can use the quadratic formula once we've solved this, we can use the quadratic formula to work out what y is. Okay, so y equals we'll get our answer for y, and then when we get our answer for y, we can substitute this answer all the way back into our original equation to get our value for x. Now I do appreciate that was quite a horrible question. I didn't realise it was going to be that difficult, that one. But the most important thing to remember whenever you're solving simultaneous equations where one of them is a quadratic and one of them is linear, always substitute. Well, first of all, rearrange the linear equation to make one of the variables the subject. It doesn't matter if you make x the subject or y the subject, but whichever one you make the subject, then you need to substitute that back into your quadratic equation. And then you'd obviously have to go along the arduous process of solving that equation. So I do apologise for that particular question. I'm just going to go back through the chat to see if there was any other questions. Nth term, I can go through nth term. GTV, is that on foundation or higher? Because that makes a big difference. Yes, I'll do a simple one. Well, a more simple one. Let's do all. Okay, let's do. I think this one's going to be a bit easier. So let's do xy equals 24 and x equals y minus 2. Okay, so I'll so we've got a pair of equations here. We've got we're going to, again, exactly the same as before, we're going to substitute one of the equations into the other. Now, the easiest way to do that is to substitute this equation into this equation here. Okay, so we know that x equals y minus 2. So wherever you see an x, you're going to replace that with y minus 2. Okay, so instead of xy, it's now going to be y minus 2y. Okay, all I've done is I've replaced this x with y minus 2 because x equals y minus 2. They both mean the same thing. Okay, and that equals 24. So now if we expand these brackets, we get y squared minus 2y equals 24. And then, again, to solve a quadratic, we need to get 0 on one side. So this is going to be y squared minus 2y minus 24 equals 0. And actually, this one's a lot nicer to solve, because if we think about two numbers that multiply together to get negative 24 and two numbers that add together to get minus 2, well, those two numbers are negative 6 and positive 4. So we can factorise this. This is going to factorise to y minus 6 times y plus 4, which equals 0. Therefore, our two solutions are y equals 6 and y equals negative 4. Was that helpful? Was that better? Did that make more sense? So the process, Hayes, was exactly the same. We're substituting our one of our equations into the other one. I'll go through a simultaneous equations that would be at the end of the foundation paper. So let me go through. Oh, let's do it in a different colour. Let's do it in red. So for everyone else who's doing the foundation paper, let's say we've got 2x plus 2y equals 14. And let's say we've got 5x minus 3y equals 19. Okay. There's always two ways to solve simultaneous equations, either elimination or substitution. Now, I've done substitution the first for this particular question, but I think most of you are probably more familiar with elimination, so I'll go through that particular method. So the whole key to the elimination method is to try and make the numbers the same. Okay, this would come up at the end of a foundation or at the beginning of a higher. So this would be a crossover topic. So this would be on both of them. This would be more towards the end. This would be definitely in the higher paper, this one. Okay, so we need to make the numbers the same. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the y's the same. So I'm going to make y the same. So to make y the same, if I multiply this equation by 3, and if I multiply the bottom equation by 2, then I'm going to have 6y here and minus 6y here. So that's okay. We want to try and get the same number. So if I if I multiply the top equation by 3, I get 6x plus 6y equals 42. And if I multiply the bottom equation by 2, I get 10x minus 6y equals 38. And now notice we've got 6y here and minus 6y. So this is why it's called elimination, because we're going to eliminate the y's. Okay, and to do that, how do we get rid of the y's? Well, we add them together. So when we have different signs, let's just highlight that. We've got different signs. When we have different signs, we add our equations together. Okay, when we have the same signs, we subtract. When we have different signs, we add them together. So 6x plus 10x gives us, so let's just show you, I'm adding these two equations together. 6x plus 10x gives us 16x. 6y plus minus 6y, well, those will cancel out. That's the whole reason why we're adding them, is to get rid of these y's. And then 42 plus 38, that gives us 80. So if 16x equals 80, therefore 1x would equal 5. And then once we've got our answer for x, we can substitute this back into one of our original equations. So let's do the top equation. So it would be 2 times 5. So I'm doing this equation here. 2 times 5, because we know x equals 5, plus 2y equals 14. 2 times 5 is 10, so 10 plus 2y equals 14. Now if we get rid of this 10 from both sides, we're just left with 2y equals 4. Therefore, y equals 2. So x equals 5 and y... Let's do it over here. Y equals 2. This question, I don't think this would come up on a foundation paper. I can't be certain about that, because I think in foundation you do learn how to factorise. I'm pretty sure you learn how to factorise. But I would probably say I'm 90% sure that it wouldn't come up, just because the process is a bit trickier. Like, obviously don't blame me if it does, this sort of question does come up, but I would be 90% sure that it wouldn't come up. Right, let's have a look. Can you go through how to find the interior angle or exterior angle when not given the number of angles? Like, you have to find out the number of angles. All right, let me read that again. Right. So how can you go through how to find the interior angle or exterior angle when you're not given the number of angles? Like, you have to find out the number of angles. So I'm not quite sure what you mean. So do you mean if we've got like a shape, something like this, and you have to find out the number of angles? I'm not quite sure what you mean, Lashubi. So, so you have to. Are you asking to find out what the angle is or the number of angles? Because you can only do one of them. So, are you working out to work out this angle here? If you're told the number of angles, so number of angles, or are you trying to work out the number of angles if you're told what this is? You're trying to say, so you're trying to work out what the angles are if you're told with the number of angles. So let's say, so for example, you give the exterior or interior to find the okay, right. So let's say the interior, I'm gonna have to pick a number that actually works. So okay, so let's say this was 160 degrees. Okay, so our interior angle is 160 degrees. How many angles are there? Or the number of angles or the number of sides? Okay, so there's two ways you could work this out. The way I find easiest, which I definitely think this is the easiest to do that, is first of all work out the exterior angle first. So the exterior angle, if the interior angle is 160 degrees, then the exterior angle, this angle, is going to be 20 degrees. Okay, because we know that the interior and exterior angles add up to 180 degrees. So the exterior angle is 20 degrees. And now to work out the number of sides, or the number of angles, so the number of sides is just 360 divided by the exterior angle. Okay, so it's 360 divided by 20, which is 18. So I know that there are 18 sides. This is an 18-sided shape. Okay, obviously if you're given the exterior angle, then you can just do 360 divided by this angle. You don't even need to work out the interior angle. But if you're given the interior angle, I would recommend first of all finding the exterior angle and then doing 360 divided by that angle to give you the number of sides. Okay, so if we come up with a formula, if we write down the formula, so the number of sides is equal to 360 divided by the exterior angle. Okay, that's an angle there. Okay, so if you were given the number of sides, you can just rearrange this formula. So the number of, let's say, actually, let's do it the other way around. Let's say, let's get rid of these. And let's get rid of this now. Let's say that we had a 12-sided shape. Okay, so let's say we had a 12-sided shape and we wanted to calculate what the interior angle was. Well, we could just rearrange this formula. So the exterior angle is going to be 360 divided by the number of sides, which is 12. 360 divided by 12, well, that gives us 30? Yeah, 30 degrees. So our exterior angle is 30 degrees, therefore our interior angle is 150 degrees. Okay. Oh, okay. It says, I've just realised, imperial power. It says, who just said interior and exterior angles are not in paper 3, apparently. What do you mean by n-1? I don't know what you mean. So I will go through that, but if you just clarify what you mean when you say, can you do n-1? Oh, do you mean the other method? I presume you mean the other method. So the other method is to calculate the sum of the interior angles. So I'll write the formula in. I don't really like to use it because I think this is much easier to do. It's much quicker, but I'll go through it if kind of that's what you're familiar with. So to calculate the sum of the interior angles, okay, we do the number of sides minus 1 times 180. Okay, so so for this particular shape, let's say we didn't know what that angle was. Let's just cross this off. So for this particular shape, we know it's a 12-sided shape. So the sum of the interior angles will be 12 minus 1 times 180. So it would be 11 times 180, which I think I can do. That would be 1,980 degrees. Okay, so all of these angles added up together would come to 1,980 degrees. And then if we wanted to then work out what this angle was, we would have to divide this by 12. So then we would do, to work out what one of the angles was, so just an angle would be 1980 divided by 12, and that should, if we've done it correctly, we should also get 150. Let me just check that. 1980 divided by 12. Oh no, I've done it wrong. What have I done wrong? Have I added that up wrong? Let's do it. 11 times 180. 1980. Divided by 12. It's 165. What have I done wrong? It is. We should get 165. That angle is 165. I must have gone wrong somewhere. 360 divided by 12. Let's do that again. 360 divided by 12. Okay, I was going to stop at 9:30, but I think I'll go till 10 just because there's still quite a lot of people here. What am I doing wrong? Let me just turn the light on. So it's pitch black in here now. Oh, England are drawing in the soccer aid, if you're interested. Right, so to calculate the exterior angle, so the number of sides is 360 divided by the exterior angle. Okay, it's not much better if I've gone wrong. Let me just I just want to see where I've gone wrong, as I don't want to give you incorrect information here. I think I might have just been confused because I was changing the numbers around halfway through. So we've got 12 sides. What have I done wrong? Oh, I can see where I've gone wrong. It's not n-1, it's n-2. See, even I'm being very stupid here. So if you are listening, please forget what I just said a moment ago. I got confused because you wrote n-1 on the board, and I don't know if you were talking about this, but it's n-2. So to calculate the sum of interior angles of any polygon, we take the number of sides, we take away 2, and then times it by 180. So to work out the sum of the interior angles here, we would do 10 times 180, because we do 12 minus 2, which is 10. That gives us 1,800 degrees. So to work out what one of the angles is, we do 1,800 divided by 12, which does give us whatever the answer was before. 1,800 divided by 12, 150. Okay, so we were right originally. It was 150 degrees. I really hope I haven't confused you with that. Did that make sense, Imperial Power? I think that was you who originally asked the question. So quadrilaterals are any four-sided shape. Okay. Let me open up another. God, I've gone through so much here. Let me open up a new one. New board. Okay, so yeah, a quadrilateral. Oh, quadrilateral equals a four-sided shape. And the easy way to remember that is think of a quad bike. How many wheels does a quad bike have? It has 4 wheels. What else have we got? Please, can you go through worded 1 to n ratio questions for foundation? Okay. Let's see if I've got. So foundation. First of all, I've got to see if I've got any foundation questions. Let's have a look. And worded ones, worded 1 to n ratio questions. Struggling to find some questions on writing ratios in the form 1 to n, like if they're worded. Okay. I'm just scouring the internet for some questions now.
In boxes at a multiple. Oh, pounds. So we £160. Rosie's the labelling was different.
Okay, I found a question. Let's write this down. I don't know if this is useful. Right, I'll type it out. So a bag contains counters. 40% of the counters are red and the rest are yellow. Oh. Write down the ratio of red counters to yellow counters in the form in the form 1 to n. Right. So yes, if the question would say write it in the form 1 to n. So don't ever write your answer in the form 1 to n if it doesn't say do it, unless it's like 1 to 2 or 1 to 3. Don't write it in the form 1 to 0.5 unless it says write in the form 1 to n. Okay. So we've got 40% of the counters are red. So red equals 40%. And the rest are yellow. So yellow is obviously going to be what's left over, which is 60%. So the ratio of red to yellow counters, so red to yellow, well, it's going to be 40 to 60. 40 to 60, which we can simplify a bit. That's the same as 4 to 6, which is the same as 2 to 3. But if we're asked to write it in the form 1 to n, this number has to be 1. Okay, this number here has to be 1. So what is this missing number? Well, to go from 2 to 1, we're just halving this number, so we have to half this number again. So that would be 1.5. So our answer would be 1 to 1.5. And it doesn't matter that we've got a decimal here. Usually when you're simplifying ratios, both of your numbers have to be integers. But if you're asked to write it in the form 1 to n, this number could be anything. This number could be like 6.49. Okay, but this number has to be 1. Okay, reverse percentages. Yeah, let's have a look at some reverse percentage questions. So this is for... Yeah, reverse... I've just seen your message. I do apologise if I'm missing some messages. Percent. Oh. Okay, I do put an apologies as well if I miss any off. So reverse percentages, I will go through this question here. This is a calculator question. And yeah, people do struggle with reverse percentages, so it's probably quite useful for quite a lot of people. So Patrick invested money into a special savers bank account. Each year, money in the account earns 4% interest. So our multiplier, straight away, I can see our multiplier is going to be 1.04. Okay, whatever we've got in our bank account, if we multiply it by 1.04, that is 4% interest. After 1 year, the total amount of money in the account was £291.20. How much did Patrick invest? So we need to know the starting amount. That's what we're asked for. But we know whatever we put into the bank account, okay, whatever we put in, we're going to multiply it by 1.04 because that is our multiplier. That's 4% interest, and we know our answer. So after a year, we have £291.20 in our account. So something times 1.04 equals £291.20. So to work out this missing something, let's just call it, I don't know, M. So to work out what M is, well, we're just going to divide by 1.04. So it's going to be £291.20 divided by 1.04. And 291.2 divided by 1.04. And we get, oh, it's a nice number. When you get a nice number like that, you should be quite happy. So £280. Now, you can always check your answer by going the opposite way. So let's say we start with £280. Our interest is 4%, so we're going to multiply by 1.04. If you type that into a calculator, you would get this answer here. Now, how did I get 1.04? Okay. Now, if we're thinking about interest, 4%, so So I'll do this in a different colour actually. So 4%, if we convert that to a decimal, that is 0.04. Okay, hopefully you can see this equivalence. 4% is the same as 0.04, but we are adding that on. Okay, it's 4% interest, so it's going to be 100% plus 4%. Okay, it's going to be 100%. We're starting at 100% and we're adding on 4%. So it's going to be effectively 1 plus 0.04, which gives us 1.04. Okay. So think about if you just multiplied it by 0.04, that would tell you what the interest is, and then you could add that on. So if this is confusing you, Abdul, what I'll do is I'll do it the other way. So actually I think that is the so for example, if you were getting 0% interest, this might be might understand it this way. So okay, let's say you were getting 0% interest. Okay, so we're starting off at £291.20. Well, if we're not getting any interest, we're going to multiply by 1. Does that make sense? If we're not getting any interest, we're going to stay at £291.20. £291.20. We're just multiplying by 1. So because we're getting 4% interest, we're getting 1 plus 0.04, which is 1.04. Okay. You're welcome. Let me go through another one. I'll go through another one of these because it might not just be after 1 year. It might be asking for you after like 5 years or something. Actually, let's go through some of these sort of questions. These are quite good. So, a lamp is on sale at £22.05. So this is the sale price. This is the sale price. This is a 10% reduction on the normal price. Okay, that's a 10% reduction on the normal price. So the first line of working out you should be doing, or how I kind of teach this, is that what percentage does this represent? The sale price, what percentage does that represent of the original price? So it cost £22.05, but notice that is a 10% reduction on the normal price. So if it's being reduced by 20%, if it's being reduced by 10%, it must now be worth 90%. Okay, so this price that he's paying for the lamp, that represents 90% of the original price. We want to work out the price of the lamp before the reduction. So what was the original price? Well, that would be when it was 100%. So we know how much it cost at 90%. We want to work out how much it cost at 100%. So this is kind of the missing number that we're trying to work out. So we can work out what 10% cost. So if we know 90% is £22.05, to work out 10%, well, we can divide by 9. So it'd be 22.05 divided by 9, which gives me £2.45. So therefore, 100%, well, we're going to times this by 10, and that will give us £24.50. Okay, and again, you can double check your answer by taking 10% of this. So take 10% of £24.50 and then take it away, and you should get back to your original, you should give you your sale price. Yeah, there might be more than one way of doing things. So yeah, imperial power, that's also a good method. So a lot of you will have your own ways of doing things. I don't want to confuse people even more. What I'm doing is I'm just going through the way I would do it. So yeah, try not to kind of, obviously you've got different teachers, so you've been taught different ways of different things. Let me just see if there's one more that we can go through. Do you want me to go through another one? I can go through another one if... Let's just have a look. Let's go through this one here. So question 9. Mr. Reed buys a car costing £11,760. So that's how much he paid. But it said this cost includes VAT at a rate of 20%. Okay, so you've got the cost of the car, but that includes VAT at 20%. So that price, £11,760. That represents 120% of the original cost, because the cost of the car doesn't include VAT, but when you add VAT on, okay, when you add that 20% on, we're now paying 120%. Okay, so, and it says how much is the VAT? So, well, first of all, we need to work out how much the car cost without the VAT. So how much, this is a slightly harder one, would work out how much the car cost without the VAT. So that would be 100%. Okay, so this would be the car without the VAT, 100%. When we add 20% on, we get 120%, and that's how much he's paying. He's paying the price plus 20% VAT. Okay, so again, we can work out what 10% is. So this is how I like to do all of these questions. I always work out what 10% is, or even 1%. So whatever a nice number is to work out. So to go from 120 to 10, we divide by 12. So we could do 11760 divided by 12. That gives us £980. So if £980 represents 10%, the cost is going to be 10 times bigger, which is going to be £9,800. So that's how much the car costs without the VAT. So to work out the VAT, we can just take this away from the original amount. So it's going to be 11760 minus £9,800. So 11760 minus 9800, and we get £1,960 VAT. Okay. Hello GTV, welcome back. I don't have a business studies channel. No, unfortunately, I'm not very clever. The only thing I'm good at is maths, or quite good at. So I'm just a maths teacher. No, don't have any other. So what did you do to get from 120% to 10%? Okay, to go from 120% to 10%, I divided by 12. So I did exactly the same here. I divided by 12. And then to go from 10% to 100%, I times by 10. So I do exactly the same here. I times by 10. Did that help? Does that make sense? Okay, I'll go over one more example because I think GTV would like to go. So what we're doing at the moment, GTV, is we're doing reverse percentages. So let me find another. Right. Yeah, thank you everyone for joining me as well. I think there's been about 20, the highest was about 25 at one point, which is quite cool. We've got about 19 people at the moment. I will have to stop in about 5 minutes though, because I do have work in the morning. Right, so let's go through this. One more question. Jennifer has 54 DVDs. This number of DVDs is 80% more than the number she had last month. So last month, let's say that is the original amount. The last month would represent 100%. That's kind of our starting value, our starting percentage last month. This month she's got 80% more. So 54 DVDs that she's got this month, So this number, 54, is 80% more than she had last month. So those 54 DVDs that she's got, those 54 DVDs, that must represent, 180%. Okay, those 54 DVDs represent 180%. So we want to work out how much she had last month. So that would be 100%. So we're going back to the original amount she had last month. We're going to 100%. So again, we can work out, let's work out 10% first. So let's work out 10% first. So to go from 180% to 10%, well, that's quite nice and easy. We can divide by 18. That will take us from 180 to 10, divide by 18. So we do the same here. If we divide by 18, and I can do that in my head, that gives me 3. So 3 DVDs equals 10%. Therefore, to get from 10% to 100%, we multiply by 10. So if we multiply by 10, 3 times 10 gives us 30 DVDs. So she had 30 DVDs last month. So let me just say this once more. I know I keep going on about it, but you do not have to use this method, okay? This is the way I do it. So I always like to have 3 lines of working. Every time I do a question like this, I always like to have 3 lines of working. So this is all to do with reverse percentages. So the first step is to write down your the statement that you've been given in the question. So we know that Jennifer had 54 DVDs, and that is 80% more than she had last month. So it must represent 180%, because last month, that's what we're starting at. That's the original, the original percentage, which is 100%. Okay. Oh, goodbye, Imperial Power. Nice to have you. Hopefully, good luck with your exams. Right, we've got 3 minutes left, I think. So if anyone's got one last question, sorry, I've missed a lot of what people have said. I've just been focusing on the questions that people have had. Yeah, best of luck in the exam, everyone. I'm sure you'll be all fine. Don't worry about grade boundaries and things like that. You can't change grade boundaries. You can only change things that that you can affect. So just give it your best shot. Well, I've been doing this channel for about 2 years, I think. I started during lockdown. Yeah, I can do another one of those questions. That's fine. Any advice for a top marks on an exam that you don't understand? My advice, if you're really struggling, my advice, just focus on the questions at the beginning. Okay. Write on the exam paper. Do drawings on the, if you get a picture, if you get some shapes, or if you get some angles, draw on them, because even if you draw a right angle, sometimes you might get a mark for drawing a right angle. So just draw on the page. Anything that you know. So if you've got a triangle, write 180 down and just think about where think about that as your starting place. Okay, let's do one more of these questions, just to show you that I use, like I said, I use exactly the same method for all of them. Which one should I do? Let's pick one from up here. No. Oh, I've missed some actually. Oh, I don't want to do another one with VAT on. Let's do this one here. So Lauren is given a 12% pay rise. Lucky Lauren. So her new salary is £24,000. So her new salary is £24,080. Now, what percentage does that represent? Well, that is a 12% pay rise. So that must represent 112%. Okay, so remember, original amount would be 100%, but she's getting a 12% pay rise. So we're now at 112%. We want to work out Lauren's salary before the pay rise. So that is going to be 100%. What was her original salary? So with this one, I'm not going to work out 10%. I'm going to work out 1%, okay? Because it's quite hard. If you think about going from 112 to 10, it's quite hard to do. So if we work out 1%, well, to go from 112 to 1%, well, we're dividing by 112. So if we do the same here, if we divide by 112, so 24,080 divided by 112, that gives us a nice figure of £215. So that's 1%. So to work out 100%, we are going to multiply by 100. So multiply by 100, and I think I can do that in my head. That would be £21,500. Right, okay. Oh, thank you, everybody. Thanks. You're welcome. You're welcome, everyone. I enjoy doing this anyway. So, okay. I think that's probably going to be it for today. Yeah. So, any more advice? What can I think? So, yeah. Focus on the question. If you're struggling, focus on the questions at the beginning. Also look at the number of marks. So if a question, is worth 1 mark, they're just looking for an answer. Okay, so it doesn't require any sort of like workings out. You just work it. It's just the answer. Anything more than 1 mark, you'll need to show a bit of working out. Yeah, sorry, I would have done paper 1 and paper 2, but I only really thought about doing this the other day. I just thought it'd be something different. But yeah, we've been going for 2 hours 26 minutes, so you should be going to bed soon. I think don't stay up too late, everyone. Also, one important thing I don't think has come up actually that I think is really important is things like simplifying. And so just before you go, let me get up another page. Okay, I promise this is going to be the last thing. This is going to be the very last thing. There's 18 people here, so it'll probably be worth it. Maybe even if one of them, this is useful for one of you, that will still be worth it. So anything to do with ratios. So let's say if it said simplify, simplify 64 to 224. Okay, something like this. Simplify the ratio 64 to 224. Use your calculator. Type into your calculator 64 over 224. It will simplify it for you. So you do not need to do any mental, athletics. You can just type that in. 64 divided by 224, and your answer will come up as 2/7. So, well, that's the answer. The answer would be 2 to 7. So nice and easy. Use your calculators to simplify. So again, simplify, I don't know, let's say 40 over 715. Just type it in. 40 divided by 715 gives you 8 over 143. I didn't need to do anything. I didn't need to do any mental arithmetic there. That was just purely on the calculator. So yeah, definitely take advantage of the calculator for this exam. But I think that's everything now. Yeah, thank you for all the comments. They do pay off. It's really nice to to hear all these nice comments. I mean, the fact that you're actually on here as well doing revision, I'm sure you'll do well. It's kind of a bit of a compromise, GTV. You don't want to stay up too late. Yeah, you want to be fresh. You've done. I mean, I'm sure the revision you've done so far, I think an extra couple of hours probably are not going to make much difference in the long run. Okay, well done for staying up and listening to me rabbit on. Good luck, everyone. I'm going to leave it there for today. But yeah, if you do want to, if you've got any siblings or friends and family, yeah, just, you know, kind of move them towards my channel. There might be some useful videos on there. So I post a video once a week. I've been doing that for 2 years. So there is a lot of there's a lot of videos on my channel. There's over 100 videos on like lots of different content. So have a look at that. Good effort, GTV. That's quite intense. 8 hours of solid. No, 6 hours of solid revision. I can't even do that. Past papers. If you go on to Danzino, I'll post it in the chat. Actually, it might be useful for some people. Let me get where is it? Let me find it. Okay, I have already posted this on my channel, but I'll do it here. Goodbye, Abdul. So that's foundation. And the higher. And that's the higher. I'll pin those to the top. Oh, message pinned. Pin that one as well. Oh, I can only pin one message at a time. Good luck, everyone. Right, it's 7 minutes past 10 now, so I'm going to go. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Danzino and GTV and Abdul. And Danzino, I said that. And, well, Hayes. Thank you, everyone. Right, bye-bye. I know you can't see me, but I'm waving at the screen. Bye-bye. I'm going to end the stream now, okay? Take care. All the best.